did work and you did produce. You did put out a movie called Black Messiah.
Judas and the Black Messiah.
You're
Let's talk
an
about
Oscar
that.
nominee.
I am an Oscar nominee. Yes.
How
There
was
you
that?
go, man.
Man, it's wild, bro. It's wild. Like,
Was you there?
I was there. We went. Yeah, we went to the.
Does the winner know who's getting that he's been picked? No one knows. It's all a mystery.
It's all the night of.
Okay.
And it's more anxiety than you would think.
Did you have that moment where you were on
Oscars
screen
where
and you had to like, oh wow, and then it was two of you, so you both had to do it.
No, I kept a smile on my face the entire time. I wasn't like bitter or anything about it. I was just like, I kind of knew we weren't going to win because you can kind of sense it based on like who's winning what, like who's winning like the precursor awards. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
we could tell like the white chick was kind of, you know, she was doing well. So like, they ain't gonna vote for this. I mean, the fact that we got nominated is crazy. If you think about Black Oscar nominees for original screenplays, only 6. Jordan Peele, Spike Lee, John Singleton, and me, my brother, and Shaka. That's it. Those are the only black guys who've ever been nominated for Best Original Screenplay. So the fact that we even received the nomination was like mind-boggling.
Congrats.
But the
be
movie
with those
was dope
names.
as hell, though.
Appreciate it.
We watched it again last night. It was
thank
dope.
you.
Yeah, it was dope as hell.
Well, Alejandro asked some questions. I know he got cinematography questions going on over here.
Yeah. So during the screenplay process, because what I like about this movie is it's sort of like a genre film.
Yeah.
So at what point in production did you guys decide, like, okay, we want to make it a little bit like a true crime and not so much of like a biopic?
That was at conception. Me and my brother, we've always been fans of 70s films, especially the New Hollywood and, you know, films like The Conversation and Godfather and all those gritty crime thrillers in the 70s we were just fascinated by. And we learned about Fred Hampton in college, and we were just like, man, that story is so tragic, but no one's ever attempted to make a movie about it. And that kind of like boggled our mind. We were like, oh, why wouldn't anyone make this movie? It's such a fascinating part of history. And we concluded that they couldn't figure out the way to structure it. They couldn't figure out a way to frame it. And that's when we came up with the idea of just let's make it a crime thriller. You know, it has elements of a crime thriller. You have the FBI spying on a group of people. Like that's ready made for a crime thriller. So at the very beginning, I think I even have it in my notes. We said we want to turn Fred Hampton's story into a crime thriller. That's like the first thing we ever wrote before we got to the screenplay. So yeah, at the beginning.
Oh, and how was the collaboration with Shaka? How long did it take to develop the whole idea, pitching? Because I assume the studios wouldn't be at first too attracted to the
That's
idea.
the right assumption. Yeah. We started tweaking the idea in like 2013. So right after Trayvon got killed, that's when we were just like, man, this is kind of crazy that this is still happening. And so we immediately thought about Fred Hampton and thinking about that. And we were like, oh, maybe we can turn that into a movie. And then we read this book, The Assassination of Fred Hampton. And that was like one of those things that really got us like into the story. And that's when we discovered Bill O'Neill. And we didn't know anything about Bill O'Neill. And once we started doing research on him, that's when we were just like, okay, this is how we got to do it. So from 2013 until about 2016, me and my brother just kind of works independent of everyone, just kind of trying to figure out the story and figure out the structure, figure out the tone, figure out the style, figure out the characters. And that took us 3 years. I mean, you know, not getting paid. You know, we did it all on spec. And we kind of like randomly worked with Shaka. He was working on this show from a friend of ours. And we didn't know who he was. We didn't know anything about his career as a independent filmmaker. We just kind of vibe with him on set. And we had tried to take the idea around town. And we got rejected by everybody, Netflix, A24, everybody rejected us. And so we were like, all right, we got to come up with a different plan because they're not going to buy the pitch. And so we pitched it to Shaka, and he instantly got it because he was a big fan of 70s crime thrillers and all these types of movies that we were into, like the what's the one that we The Conformist. I don't know if you guys seen The Conformist. It came out in 1971. Bertolucci. That movie had a huge influence on us, and he was a big fan of that movie as well. So we kind of connected on The Conformist, and we started working on a new outline with Shaka. That took about another year. And then there was another writer, Will Burson, who was working on his own Fred Hampton movie, independent of us. He had already written a script about Fred Hampton and J. Edgar Hoover. And so we read that script and we were like, holy shit, this is like really good. You know what I mean? He kind of like touched on everything that we wanted to touch on, but he also had a more fleshed out Fred Hampton, because ours was kind of focused on Bill O'Neill. He had a more focused Fred Hampton. We synchronized the stories, brought it together, and I would say overall it took us about 8 years to get the script where we needed to get it. Yeah.
After that, were you guys able to procure like a film deal for the future, or like so it wouldn't take you 8 years to do something like that, and you can get the upfront money after being successful with that film?
I mean, all films, every film you make is a different journey.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I mean, if Judas had made $500 million, then maybe, but it just got critical acclaim. It didn't make as much money as we wanted it to make. Man, it came out during COVID, but so yeah, that's how Hollywood base if they're going to give you more money.
Got it.
Did your last movie make money? And if it doesn't, then they're not going to give you any more money. But a movie about a black socialist who dies at the end, I mean, it's not a movie that gets made. And so just getting it made for us was like the win. Like, we didn't care about the box office. We didn't even care about the Oscars. It was more about just like getting a great film made about Fred Hampton that can stand the test of time.
And it got released kind of during COVID times when they were doing the dual release of Max and also the theater.
Right. It was idiotic. I mean, it was the dumbest thing that they could do. Warner Bros. Just kind of screwed us over. They screwed over every filmmer, really, because
Scarlett Johansson sued Disney.
No
for
filmmaker wanted their movies just dumped on fucking HBO Max. I mean, no disrespect to HBO Max. It's just, as a filmmaker, you want to see your movie on the big screen. You know what I mean? That's what we got into it for. So
you had your red carpet.
We had a limited red carpet, but it was cool. I don't care much for red carpets, to be honest. I kind of hate them, to be honest.
After putting in 8 years of work, like, what was the moment you were like, hell yeah? It's worth it.
When I spoke with Fred Hampton's partner, the one who was in the room when he got murdered, that was when I knew it was all worth it. Speaking to her and how proud of the film she was proud of the film, and once I realized she was proud of the film, I was set.
Dope.
I was set.
Was there a lot of backlash for the casting of Daniel Kaluuya? And why can't American black actors get the big roles?
I mean, American black actors get big roles. Michael B. Jordan, Denzel, Will Smith. I mean, American black actors do what they got to do. But Kaluuya, man, he brought something to the table that nobody else brought, and he reminds me of what's his name on the waterfront.
What's his name? Marlon Brando?
Marlon Brando, yeah. He reminds me a lot of Brando, just like how physical he is with his roles. And when you watch Apocalypse Now and how commanding he is on the screen, I feel like that's what Kaluuya brought to this film. And I don't think anybody could have done what he did, because he's a special actor.
Okay, one of my last questions that I have about, because Black Messiah deals with COINTELPRO. Mm-hmm. Do you think nowadays it's still like that they're so devious and planned and they're just releasing all this footage of stupid politicians to throw us off?
Definitely. I think people are still being spied on, but what's so genius about the government now, though, is that they convince people to spy on themselves. So they don't have to do the work anymore. You have your tracking device with you everywhere you go. We literally put ourselves on camera every time. So it's like they've evolved beyond just like having to do the work and going to the hotels and putting the wiretaps. They just convinced us to spy on ourselves.
What was the hardest part of like filming Judas and the Black Messiah?
The weight of the topic. Having to talk about Fred Hampton every day and think about his death, and to see like his wife is still there, his son is still, like, they're still affected by his death. You know what I mean? Like, there's still people alive who haven't gotten over that death, and it's like it has such a detrimental impact on Chicago. Like, look at where Chicago is now. Like, Fred Hampton was trying to do something that no other civil rights leader was trying to do, and that's fix the inner city. Dr. King went to Chicago for 2 weeks, and he was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? He was like, I gotta go back to fucking Alabama and where it's safe in the South. And he couldn't even fix Chicago. So Fred Hampton was trying to do something that I feel like a lot of politicians have, not politicians, but a lot of activists have dropped the ball on. And because he was killed, I think it kind of destroyed Chicago. You know, it's in a terrible place right now.
And I saw in an interview that after the movie got released is when you got the paperwork that J. Edgar Hoover, called the assassination.
Yep. So right when the movie was coming out, the FBI released classified documents, and that's when we discussed. And they didn't do it out of the kindness of their hearts. It was because of the Freedom of Information Act, and we were able to get, not us, but one of the researchers was able to get the documents that proved that Hoover called the assassination hit on Fred Hampton. And
is he still with us?
Who, Hoover?
No, that guy who asked for the papers.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Check on him.
I'm gonna call for that guy.
We need to check on him. I mean, he might not be around anymore.
Hey, thanks for the info.
During the making of the movie, was there like a great moment or something that you want to share with us during the making of that movie?
Yeah.
I'm sure there were plenty of great moments and acting and all that other good stuff.
One particular moment, you know, the scene where Kaluuya as Hampton, he's giving a speech at the church, like right after prison. So on set that day, like all of the old Panthers were there. All of the old Panthers they were there and they were watching it. And I mean, it was, even just watching it, we knew like, okay, this is special. This is the scene. This is the scene.
Right.
And it turned out to be the scene. But in watching it and watching those old Panthers watch it, you could feel like they were transported back in that time, and you could see in their faces that they were moved by it, and you could see like the water in their eyes. And I'm just like, oh, this is going to impact people on a level that I wasn't prepared for.
Wow.
That's how powerful Hampton's words were. Because it was word for word Hampton. I mean, there was no we didn't add anything. It was all Hampton. Everything that was said by Hampton. All of his speeches.
What was the pressure like?
The pressure?
With them watching. Do you feel like it was like, or did you have a relationship with them already where it was like
we were cool with his son?
Roll up,
yeah,
like,
we were cool with
hey,
his son.
Let's see what you got.
Yeah, we were cool with his son. His son was on set every day, and so he was really the one we were like, we got to make sure that this is. You know, he feels good about it because he was very critical of the film. He was very critical of the script. He thought that we spent too much time with Bill O'Neill. He was like, I don't understand why he gets second billing with my father, which is a pretty fair critique. But we were trying to tell him like, look, man, like this is a movie, so we have to get this through the system. And unfortunately, that this is what they, you can't just make a civil rights movie about a person that nobody knows about. You know what I mean? I mean, we know about Fred Hampton, but at the time, these white executives didn't know.
But I like the way it was told because it reminds me like The Last King of Scotland.
Yeah.
Where, he's the biggest person in the movie.
Right.
But by making him like a secondary character, sort of like, the structure, they make him bigger than life.
Exactly. Fred Hampton's name is said throughout the movie. You know what I mean? The fact that the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, and all of his fucking goons were targeting this 19-year-old kid. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy when you take a step back and think about it. But clearly, Fred Hampton had more power than folks give him now. He was the most. I feel in 1969 he was the most powerful activist in the country, maybe even the globe. And they had to get rid of him because they knew if his ideas became a little bit more global, he was going to be bigger than Malcolm X, bigger than Martin, and they had to get rid of him.
How you feel about the Jesse Plemons part meme going viral? You know, when he's with the hat and he's clapping. Do people send you that sometimes?
I love it, man. I love it. I mean, that's how movies live on, man. Memes, man. There's a lot of good memes from the film, and that one in particular is hilarious.
Last thing I want to touch on before we let people know what you got going on in the future, animation series. Y'all got an animation series.
Yeah.
Lucas Brothers Moving Company. What took you into animation, or how did that come about?
I mean, me and my brother, man, we like to be experimental. We don't like to put ourselves in a box. So we told ourselves from the jump, like, if something intrigues us even slightly, we're gonna try to dive into it, because early on we were doing sketch, we did animation, we were doing stand up, we were writing dramas, we wrote a memoir. Like, we've been trying to just like be as creative as possible. So animation was actually an opportunity for us to really be creative, you know what I mean? Because anything goes in animation, you know what I mean? There aren't too many limitations, right? You don't have to worry about finding a set or getting a big actor to be in it, you know what I mean?
I was going to ask you, how freeing is it? Because even with the way the culture is now on shutting shit down, like, animation's still pretty crazy.
Right. We get away.
Like, you can still say and do whatever you can
get away with a lot of shit in animation. Like, it's crazy how much you can get away with. It's unfortunate that there aren't a lot of like black animated shows anymore, but at the time, it was a bit of a renaissance, and so we were able to get away with some shit that I don't think we will ever be able to get away with in our careers ever again. But it was fun,
still, so that's over? There's no more.
That show is over, but we're still coming up. We have another animated idea.
Yeah, what you got coming up? What you got going on? What do you got for the people?
Me and my brother, we're doing a lot. So we wrote this memoir. That should be coming out sometime next year. We got the zombies idea that we're working with Kid Cudi on for him to star in. We also have.
It'd be good now that he got a limp.
Hopefully he's recovered by then. We need him to be recovered by then.
That's a limp? What happened to him?
He broke his foot. Jumping. He got like a bunch of pins in his foot, looking crazy.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be recovered by then. We're gonna need him to recover. What else we got? We got this documentary that we're working on about Swerve Strickland and Flash Garments. Swerve is the AEW champion, and Flash is like his creative partner, and they've done some amazing work over at AEW. So we wanted to do a documentary about him. That's actually how I met Prophet, because he did the song for Swerve. He produced the song for Swerve, and he knows Flash really well. So we met. Which show was it? It was St. Louis show. We met. We interviewed him for the doc, and and it's been cool, man. It's been crazy. And we also have we're organizing a movie with Judd Apatow, with Cat Williams too. So we wrote this movie, and Cat agreed to star in it, and so we've been, getting that up and running. So just a lot of different things, man.
Sound like a funny ass mixture. So
I mean, Judd, Cat. I mean, you can't beat that right there.
Really good.
Do you guys know the story about, since you do the Black Panther? Mm-hmm. You did the Black Panther movie. Do you know the story about Tupac's aunt?
I know. I just watched the documentary.
It's crazy.
Insane.
I
know his mom was she got arrested with the New York 21, and she had to defend her own case. But what was the aunt?
Well, where his aunt, remember, I think there was a shooting and they end up killing some police officers, and then they put her in jail, and then then the Black Panthers, they all went to the jail, grabbed her. They grabbed her and took her out of the prison, and then I think they took her over to Cuba, and I think she's in Cuba to this very day. It's a crazy story.
It was in Jersey too, right? Didn't the shootout happen in Jersey? I think it did.
I can't remember exactly where it happened, but it's a wild story, and I think you guys would be perfect for something like that, especially after doing the movie that you guys just did. That's an amazing story, and no one talks about it.
I agree. The Panther women were badass, man. I mean, Asada Shakur and Afeni Shakur, who defended herself in the trial. She wasn't a lawyer or anything, and she got herself, off. I mean, they were very, very special women. And I agree, man. They need a movie.
That's crazy. Because they went to the prison and got her out of there.
She escaped from it. I mean, it's crazy. And she's still alive now. So it's like, I would love to. That's a good idea.
And she writes.
She does write, too.
Yeah, she writes. Yeah. She writes.
Yeah, she deserves a movie.
Yeah.
Without question.
Hell yeah. You might have to go to Cuba.
I might have to. Would they let me back in America, though, if I do this?
I think Cuba's open now.
Yeah, you can go to Cuba.
Cuba open back in the day.
Even if I talk to a fugitive?
Nah, I wouldn't tell them that's why you're going.
I wouldn't include that.
I'm not going to Cuba.
Allegedly. If he ever goes to Cuba, it's for the cigars.
And the weather.
Yeah.
And the coffee.
Yeah, exactly.